Today we're going to learn how to get our 3D models from Tinkercad into the Dremel 3D printer and ready to print. So the first thing we're going to need to do is make sure that we're in Tinkercad with our 3D model opened up. This is a model that some former 6th graders at the time completed. It's a Yoshi model. You can see I'm just spinning around to kind of show off their pretty incredible work. So, in order to print this, what I'm going to do first is go up to the Design menu in Tinkercad and go down to Download for 3D Printing. Now I have a bunch of options here. I'm just going to choose STL. That will download the entire 3D model into one single file that our 3D printer software will be able to understand. Now, if I wanted to print in multiple colors and I had objects separated, I could use this Download the Selected Shapes option. And that would let me just choose individual objects on the screen to download instead of the entire project at once. We're going to print this whole Yoshi just in a single color. So I'm going to click STL. May take anywhere from 3 seconds to 30 seconds to download. Your file will either end up in the Downloads folder on the computer or in the desktop. I can see that mine ended up right here on the desktop. It's called Yoshi, STL. Yours will be named whatever you have named your project in Tinkercad. Sometimes they've got kind of funny names, so you'll have to take a look at that. And now I am done with Tinkercad, so I'm just going to minimize this. And for the Dremel 3D printers, we're going to use software from Autodesk called Print Studio. It should be right here in the dock. It's a orange square with a P in it. If you don't see that, what we can do is use Spotlight, which is the magnifying glass in the top right corner. I'll click on the magnifying glass and type Print Studio, and it should start to auto-complete. If it finds it on the computer, great. You can just press Enter or Return on your keyboard, and that will open up. If it doesn't find it, then let me know, and we'll have to install that software on the computer. So I'm going to get out of Spotlight and open up Print Studio from the dock. And it's going to take us right here. Now, my version of the software is already set up for our Dremel 3D printers. I'm just going to walk you through some steps to let you know how to change that if you need to. So up here in the left corner, it says Dremel 3D Idea Builder. And underneath it, there's an option to choose your printer. So I'm going to click on that. And we're not connecting through USB or Wi-Fi. We've got a drop-down box. We want to make sure that it says Dremel 3D Idea Builder 3D 40. That's the newer version. Those are the ones that we have. So we'll click on that and click on OK. And it says it right here on the base as well. Then we're going to make sure that it knows what kind of filament or plastic we're printing with. So we'll click here. It should say PLA 1.75 millimeters. That's how thick the filament is on the spool. That's in millimeters, so it's pretty thin. And we don't really need to change any of this stuff. It should be set up just how we want it. The only thing we're going to want to do is make sure that it says Enable Raft right here. The raft is a layer of filament that gets put down on the bottom of the model, in between the model and the build surface, and it helps to make sure that your model is connected and stays secure on the build surface as it's being built. So we want to make sure that that is checked, and then click on OK. And now we're ready to go. I can either click on the plus to import a project, or I could just drag the file from the desktop right in here. And here we go, except Yoshi looks way too big. Now sometimes what will happen is the 3D printing software, Print Studio, will think that you were working in centimeters instead of millimeters. So that's why it's kind of big. It's actually 10 times as big because it thinks you're working in centimeters, but you are actually doing millimeters. So what we're going to do is we're going to click here and click on millimeters and OK. Now it should be about the right size. So we're good to go here. Left click doesn't do anything unless you're on the model. I can rotate it. Right clicking will move the camera around so I can kind of see right here. Looks good. And there's also this option right here. Go home, line it up a little bit. Perfect. So now what we want to do is get this ready for 3D printing. It's red, which means that there are going to be some issues with printing that we'll have to take a look at. So first thing we do is import. We're going down this list right up here to export. So next step is layout. We're going to want to center it, which will center it in the middle of the bed and not in the corner. Move it to the build surface, which is helpful sometimes if you were 3D print or working in Tinkercad and you didn't realize it, but some of your object was above the work plane in Tinkercad. That would be an issue. And auto layout, that's just going to arrange it to make sure that it fits on the bed. So we're good here. Click on repair and we have an exclamation point, 36 errors. Not a big deal. We're just going to be able to click on auto repair and it should fix it for you. If you're blue, you're good to go. Then we have to look at supports. Supports are plastic pieces that get added to your 3D print to ensure that everything can print well, even if there's nothing below it. So typically this happens when you have arms on an action figure or something that has an overhang. 3D printing works by putting layers on top of each other, and they slowly build up to create your creation. Unfortunately, like with Yoshi's right leg, there's a gap in between the surface and the start of his leg. So the 3D printer isn't smart enough right away to know that there's nothing underneath, and if it starts to print without supports, what'll happen is it's going to start printing right here, and it's just going to squirt plastic filament straight down, and it's just going to droop and look like spaghetti, and it's going to mess things up. So we don't want that. So what we're going to do is we're going to click first on optimize rotation. What this does is actually, this will arrange your project so that it uses as little support as possible. So you can see that it actually turned Yoshi on its side. That definitely is probably not how you designed him, but that's probably what the software thinks is the best way to print them. And we're going to click on add supports, and it does that automatically. And it looks like little trees or tree branches. So it's adding supports where it feels it needs to support and keep this object steady. Like this, his left foot right here, without the supports it would print in the air, and that would be an issue. So now we're good to go. We're ready to go to preview, and it's going to start generating a preview and give us some information that'll be helpful to know if we need to make any last minute changes. Okay, so it's ready to go. That can take anywhere from 5 seconds to maybe up to a minute. So there are a couple things here with this preview. First is that it's going to show you the different layers, so you can actually slide through and see what your project will look like as the 3D printer moves and adds layers on top of layers of plastic. Pretty cool. Then it's going to show you two estimates. One of the volume of filament that it's going to use. Right now it's at 43 centimeters, or cubic centimeters rather, and an estimated amount of time. It looks like it's going to take just under 5 hours. Now, for me, I don't have any requirements as far as the amount of filament I can use. However, you do for your projects. Your projects can only use up to $3 worth of filament. That's total for your group. And to give you a little help, I'm going to tell you that it is 4 cents for every cubic centimeter of volume of filament. So right here, estimated volume, this tells me 43 cubic centimeters. And I know that that is 4 cents per cubic centimeter. So to find out the total cost, I need to multiply those. So I'm just going to use calculator real quick to show you. Here we go. I've got my calculator right here. So I'll do 43 centimeters, cubic centimeters. I don't need to really worry about that right now. 43 times 4 cents. And this will tell me that it's 172 cents to print this out, which equates to, drum roll, $1.72. Because that's 100 cents in a dollar, so $1.72. So that would be fine. So you are good to go right now. And if for some reason your estimated volume was too large, or you realize that you're only going to be able to print out one and you need to print out more than one for each member of your group, you could do a couple things. You could either go back into Tinkercad and try and adjust, maybe take out some parts, or what you can do is you can go back into the layout and you can go and, here we'll head to layout, and we'll use this scale option right here. And I can actually just change the size. I'll change this maybe down to 90%. So this is at, I think it went to 90, yeah. So we'll come back here to repair. We're good. Supports. We'll add supports, preview, and we'll see how much money we saved. Slowly working. So now we're down to 34 centimeters. We cut off an hour of work, and so this was $1.72, and now I'll do 34 times 4, $1.36. So we saved almost 40 cents on our project just by changing it 10%. So every little change does add up to pretty big savings. So let's say that we're good with this. We're going to export. And it's going to get ready. And while it's starting to export and get your file ready for the Dremel printer, what you're going to want to do is go over to the Dremel and find one of the two printers that is not currently printing. And you're going to need to get the USB drive from it. The USB drive is on the front of the Dremel printer. In the bottom right corner, looks like a little mole sticking out of the printer. You're going to pull it out and then put it into the computer in the back. Do that right now, and you'll see on the desktop that an icon shows up. It may just have a little disk icon, or it might actually be the disk icon, or it might be a picture of the Dremel 3D printer. So now we know that we're able to save here. Click on save. Now if we happen to see it like this, we can't choose our drive, so we'll click on the little caret. And now on the left side, I can scroll down to Devices and click on Dremel. And now I need to give it a name. I'm going to call this Yoshi. Save. And it's saved successfully. Now I can drag the icon from the desktop of the disk down to the trash to eject it. That way we can make sure that all the file changes are saved and everything's going to be good to go. And once this icon disappears, yep, it's gone now, I can pull out the flash drive and bring it over to the Dremel 3D printer and go from there. At that point, you'll probably want to check in with me to make sure everything's ready to go. And the nice thing is we can actually just close out Print Studio. We can quit, discard our changes. We already have them saved. And then we can also trash this STL file to keep our desktop nice and clean. And that should be it. You should be ready to print now.